Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our 2:30 streaming show. I'm Jamie French.
And I'm Robinson Miles. We're going to start right now with breaking news that we've been following this afternoon out of Henderson. Police say a person is dead after a shooting. Now, this happened shortly before noon in the area of Julia and Powell Streets. Police believe it started as a domestic argument.
Yeah, they say that a person was shot in the chest. Now, our crew is on scene right now. They tell us they could see the coroner there, and police also told our reporter that a body was going to be taken out of that home. Officers say they arrived within 7 minutes of getting a 911 call from a family member who was also in that home. Police say there is no threat to the public, but again, information on this story is continuing to come into our newsroom just about every minute now, so we'll continue to keep you updated as we learn more.
Now, on to our second headline. We do have some sad news to report out of Evansville. The Mesker Park Zoo officials say 3-year-old Sumatran tiger Luna has died. According to a press release, Luna was born at the Oklahoma City Zoo in 2022, and had been at, I can read, it's
That's
fine.
okay.
And had been, it's sad, I was distracted, had been at Mesker Park Zoo and Botanic Gardens since 2024. It was later confirmed that Luna had a bone lodged in her esophagus and had caused a rupture.
And she was transported 3 hours to a specialized facility. Zoo officials say despite very quick actions, emergency medications, and multiple rounds of CPR, team members were unable to save her. Now, Mesker Park Zoo officials say Luna was very loved and will be very missed. You can tell in this picture she was just quite beautiful. I mean, gorgeous animal there. So our Gabe Pontones stopped by the zoo today to talk to officials. You know, this is going to be quite a loss for them. She's been there for a while, so he'll have more on the impact she's made here in Evansville tonight on 14 News.
Now, for our final story, we're going to be back in Henderson, where water utility crews are repairing a water main break on South Green Street. And this is between Jefferson and Dixon Streets. Around 10 this morning, traffic was down to one lane in both directions. No word yet on what caused the leak or if a boil advisory will be issued, but we will keep you updated as we learn more. Of course, as you can see here, there is a lot happening around the tri-state today. We've got our reporters and photographers all over, so be sure to circle back to us tonight at 14 News at 4, 5, 6, and 10. Yeah,
that's right. Of course, our big story that we're following this week is the winter storm headed our way. So with that, we're going to get you to the lady of the hour here, meteorologist Arden Gregory, with a look at those alert days and what we can expect. So don't go anywhere.
Stay informed on your local news and weather throughout the day by watching the 14 First Alert streaming shows. At 8:30 a.m., get your First Alert forecast to plan the day ahead and catch up on the news that happened overnight with the 14 News Sunrise team. In the afternoon, get the latest headlines, forecasts, and a preview of the stories we're working on with the 14 First Alert streaming show at 2:30. And get an in-depth look at the 14 First Alert forecast so you're ready for the next big thing with the 14 First Alert weather show at 9 p.m. Watch the 14 First Alert streaming show that fits your schedule and works best for you. Streaming on your phone by downloading the 14 News app and the 14 First Alert weather app. On your smart TV by using the 14 News streaming app. And stream anytime on Facebook, YouTube, or on 14news.com. Stay connected and stay informed by watching the 14 First Alert streaming shows on your favorite streaming devices.
Good afternoon. I'm 14 First Alert meteorologist Arden Gregory, and we have a lot to talk about here. So we had a little bit of wintry mix this morning. We did have some slick spots. All of that's over now, though. The showers have moved out. Not as cold out there today, but we have changes on the way. Colder air is going to start moving in tomorrow, and really it turns sharply colder by Friday. And that's kind of setting the stage for the winter storm that will move through then this weekend. We are still on alert Saturday and Sunday. We've had these alert days in place all week long, but confidence is now increasing that this is going to be an impactful major winter storm with moderate to heavy snow along with some brutally cold temperatures. And this is a large storm system. It's going to impact a lot of people There is now a winter storm watch. This starts all the way out here, way over here on the edge of the map here. That would be all the way into Arizona, stretching through New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, all the way out over into Virginia, West Virginia, and North Carolina. And then along the way, it now includes the tri-state. Now, we are the northern edge of this, so this winter storm watch stretches down across Tennessee and parts of the deep south, and then the tri-state is kind of the upper edge of where that winter storm watch has been issued. But they issued that earlier this morning, as I said, because confidence is increasing that this is going to be a major and impactful winter storm. I think 4 to 8 inches of snow across most of the tri-state is a very realistic possibility. Some of the models are hinting at even more than that, but I'd say, right now, 4 to 8 inches of snow, very possible, which would obviously cause some major travel issues and things like that. So let's talk about the immediate, what's going to happen over the next couple of days, and then we'll really dig into the details on that winter weekend storm, okay? Right now, it's mostly cloudy. We did have showers roll through earlier today. As those showers were moving through western Kentucky this morning, we did have some slick spots. Air temperatures were above freezing, but down at the ground, the pavement temperatures were just slightly below freezing. And so it was falling as rain and then freezing on contact. And so it looked wet, but in some spots it was frozen over. And so we had these little patches of ice all over western Kentucky this morning. But then temperatures climbed, everything thawed out, the showers have moved out, so none of that's a concern anymore. It's still mostly cloudy out there right now. They are getting some sunshine up in Illinois. These clouds will start to gradually clear later this afternoon and evening, but it clouds right back up by tomorrow morning. And you may have noticed our wind direction also changes. Colder air starts to work in tomorrow, but really the sharp drop in our temperatures won't happen until Friday. Tomorrow will be mostly to partly cloudy, but it looks like it will be dry through the next couple of days. The next chance of precipitation we're tracking is that big winter storm over the weekend. Temperatures right now sitting in the upper 30s to low 40s. This will be the warmest day of the week. Notice up in Mount Carmel and Fairfield where the sun's out, they're about 10 degrees warmer than the rest of us, sitting in the upper 40s to low 50s. It's 41 right now in Evansville, 39 in Owensboro. Our temperatures will drop back into the mid 20s overnight. The wind will also die down some overnight. Then tomorrow, chilly wind coming in from the northwest, just a light breeze. A mix of sun and clouds. I think more clouds than sun though. Temperatures will top out in the upper 30s on Thursday. Then that sharply colder air really takes over on Friday. I mean, just look at these temperatures for a moment. Our normal highs this time of year, typical late January weather, would be highs in the lower 40s and lows in the mid 20s. Very similar to the kind of weather we've got out there today and pretty close to what we'll still have tomorrow. Then this sharply colder air takes over on Friday. And from Friday through the start of next week, we're looking at highs in the upper teens to low 20s and lows in the single digits to low teens at the very warmest. It's very possible that on some of these days, with even a light breeze, you could see wind chills dipping below zero. I think especially as we get into Saturday morning, as that system is starting to move in, it will be rather breezy. And I think Saturday morning, we could see wind chills as much as 5 to 10 degrees below zero. So it is going to be brutally cold. In addition to the fact then we also have that snow, and the fact that it's going to be this cold also plays a part in our snow, and I'll explain more about why in just a second. So we are on alert Saturday and Sunday, moderate to heavy snow, very impactful accumulation. Like I said, 4 to 8 inches seems very realistic to me. By tomorrow and Friday, we should be able to put out more detailed maps of exactly how much snow we think different parts of the tri-state could get. But right now, I'd say just kind of as a general idea, that's a very realistic window for most of us, in addition to that Arctic cold. So let's start with the timing. Right now, it looks like Friday will be cloudy but dry. So we're going to get through the rest of the work week just fine. This is really going to impact us over the weekend. Here's that snow. It starts to move in probably sometime Saturday morning. So first thing Saturday will probably be dry. Then as we go through the day on Saturday, this snow pushes in from the west. By Saturday night, we could have heavy snow falling across much of the tri-state. And notice this pink down to the south, that is ice. So we could have ice down to the south in places like Tennessee. Very concerned about icing there. So something to keep in mind if you were thinking about traveling down that way, places like Nashville this weekend, think again, because I think that's going to be really hazardous travel there. As we get through Saturday night, notice it is possible a little bit of that ice could come our way. I wouldn't rule out the possibility of just a glazing of ice mixed in with this snow in places like Hopkins, Muhlenberg, or Ohio counties. But I would say for the most part, this looks like it's going to be mainly snow for the tri-state. So not real concerned about ice, not real worried about wind and power outages and things like this. It's just going to be a lot of snow across the tri-state as it'll start snowing on Saturday. It'll snow through Saturday night and into Sunday morning. Then this snow starts to push off to the east as we go through Sunday afternoon and evening. The exact details of how much snow we're going to get, still a little fuzzy, but confidence is increasing that this is going to be a significant snowstorm. You'll notice essentially the whole tri-state in about a 70% chance of seeing at least 3 inches of snow. So that would be the minimum. Odds are it'll probably be more than that. And part of that is because of the cold. This is kind of assuming a typical 10-to-1 snow ratio. And what that means is if you take the moisture, an inch of water, what would have, if it fell as rain, be an inch of rain. That's a lot of water. That's a heavy rainstorm. If you look at an inch of water, that would typically translate to, on average, about 10 inches of snow. Okay, but it's not a standard. It's just kind of typical. Usually a good rule of thumb, if you will, is that an inch of water would equal 10 inches of snow. If it is a little warmer and that's kind of a thick, slushy, wet, heavy snow, then it ends up being less than that because that kind of is compact, heavy snow. Instead, what we're looking at is the other end of the spectrum here. When it's down in the teens, like it's going to be this weekend, you get that dry, fluffy, powdery snow, and it tends to stack up really high. So at that point, an inch of water tends to trend more like a 20-inch ratio. Now, we're not going to have an inch of water, we're not going to have 20 inches of snow, but that's just to say that if this is assuming 3 inches of snow in a 10-to-1 ratio, keep in mind it's going to be colder than that. It's going to be a drier snow. It's going to stack up higher. So that's why I'm saying where that's indicating a minimum of 3 inches of snow, I think more like 4 to 8 would be a more likely window because it is going to be a drier, fluffier, powdery snow just due to how cold our temperatures are going to be, as we'll be looking at highs in the teens and lows in the upper single digits to low teens as that snow is moving through. Let me take a quick check-in on the comments because I know there's a lot of you coming through here. Good afternoon, Lori, Jeanette, Carla, Kyra. Annette asking if the roads will freeze overnight. I wouldn't be real worried about that because the showers have already moved through. So the rain has moved out for tonight. It is breezy out there, which is going to help dry the roads out. So I think by the time temperatures get below freezing tonight, the roads will be dry. If there's any water left, puddles, places where the water has been kind of standing and didn't completely dry, those areas might freeze. But just in general, the roads will most likely be dry by the time we get below freezing tonight. So I'm not real worried about freezing overnight tonight. Thank you for that question. Zach asking if Evansville's going to get ice or all snow. I think Evansville will be all snow this weekend. If we get any ice in the tri-state at all, it would probably be on the southern end, places like Hopkins, Muhlenberg, and Ohio counties in Kentucky. But for the most part, this looks like it's going to be mainly snow for the tri-state. Good afternoon, Joni. Nikki asking about totals. And Elijah asking the same thing. Is there a chance of higher amounts? Really, it's tough to talk totals this far out because they tend to change so much as you start to get closer in. You have to keep in mind we're still 4 days out on this, and so especially to get all the way through the entire end of the system, you would have to have data all the way up until Sunday night, basically. And we just don't have that many models that go that many days out. I will say part of the reason confidence is increasing is if you've been watching us and following this, you know that we've basically been comparing two models, right? We had the GFS and the Euro. The Euro has been all in on this snow from the beginning. It's been pushing for heavy snow and high totals all week long. The GFS has not been on board. The GFS has oftentimes been showing the snow staying completely south of the tri-state or getting light snow if we get any at all. As of today, the GFS has gotten on board. They are now both showing heavy, significant snowfall across the tri-state this weekend. Now, I still think some of them are, some of these models tend to still get a little overexcited this many days out. As we get closer, sometimes you will see those numbers come down a little bit as we get more data and just have a clearer picture of what to expect. That's why a lot of the time we don't talk totals until we're 2 or 3 days out, because before then so much of it can change. But confidence is increasing that this will probably be a minimum of 4 to maybe 8 inches of snow across the tri-state. That's significant. That's major travel issues, that's closures and things like that. So that's enough to cause major issues around here. We're not really great at dealing with snow, as we all know. And we're certainly not great at dealing with 4 to 8 inches of snow. We're just not prepared for it. And people don't know how to drive in it. They don't clear all the snow off their cars. We don't tend to plow all of our streets, so the side streets and back roads are always in bad shape. We're just not designed for it, right? We don't get enough snow around here to deal with it the way they do up north. So to summarize, I think it's too early to give a specific number for any one town like Evansville. I'd say for most of the tri-state, right now I would say you'll probably get at least 4 to 8 inches. That's probably all you really need to know to prepare, right? That's enough that you're going to probably have closures, you're going to have travel issues, you need to do what you need to do before this snow hits. For those of you asking if we could maybe get more than that, I would say it's possible, but it's still too early for me to say with confidence that that would happen. I wouldn't rule it out, especially with temperatures this cold. This is going to be a fluffy snow. It's going to stack up. So these numbers are probably going to be higher than they would be if we were getting this same amount of snow at 30 degrees versus at 17 degrees, as I just showed you with that snow ratio. So just something to keep in mind. This is going to be a fluffy snow. It's going to stack up. And so these are, as a result, going to be higher totals when you're out there measuring with a ruler than it would have been otherwise. Cynthia asking about power outages. You typically are more worried about power outages with ice, and I really don't see a major ice concern with this. I also don't think it's going to be terribly windy. It'll be a little breezy Friday night into Saturday morning right as this thing's moving in, but once the snow's here, I really don't think it's going to be terribly windy, so I'm not real concerned about drifting and power outages and things like that. To answer your question, it's always possible. Somebody could, slide off the road and hit a power pole and knock power out to your town or to your, neighborhood. But as far as like what we dealt with last winter, where we had, the ice and then snow on top of it, and we had a lot of people without power for several days, I do not see that happening. This is not going to be an ice storm. This is going to be a snowstorm. I don't see ice and I don't see a lot of wind. So for that reason, I'm not real concerned about power outages. Most of the impacts from this are going to be from travel, as there's just going to be too much snow out there for a lot of especially smaller vehicles to be able to make it through safely. All right. Jean says, let it snow. She's ready for it. Good afternoon, Laura from Dawson Springs, Kat from Paducah, Suzanne. And yeah, Paula's agreeing with me. If you've ever lived out in one of those backcountry roads, they're not going to come plow your road. Their priority is to get the main roads cleared, but that means those back roads, you need to be prepared to just wait this out in a lot of situations. Mark is asking about when the snow will start on Saturday. That's still a little bit iffy as well. Like I said, we're still a few days out. Some of the models have it moving in Saturday morning. Others don't have it until Saturday afternoon. So still a little uncertain, but it'll be sometime probably by early afternoon on Saturday. So could be in the morning, could be closer to lunchtime, but sometime during the day on Saturday, it'll move in. So if you've got plans Friday night, I think you're fine. By Saturday night, you probably need to be wherever you're going to be, because by Saturday night, it'll be snowing, and it'll be snowing hard. And by Sunday morning, we'll have significant accumulation across the whole tri-state. So I hope that answers your question. All right. Mary watching from Jasper, thank you. Paula commenting, it's been a while since we had this much snow. Yeah, we had, a couple of good snowstorms back to back. Last January, we had the ice storm, which had some snow in it too, and then we had another snowstorm like a week later. So it kind of came back to back. We did have a lot of snow this past January. But yeah, if we get 8 inches or more, that's a rarity around here. We only get snow like that once every 3 or 4 years typically. And if this were to really overperform, let's say hypothetically we really did get closer to a foot of snow. And again, I'm not saying that that's a guarantee, but some of the models are hinting at that as a possibility. We'll have to wait and see if that holds over the next couple of days. But if that were to happen, that would really be something. That's extremely rare around here. And because it's so rare, that's why I'm not totally convinced that that's actually going to happen. That would be pretty incredible if it did. For those of you who are curious what you should be doing with all this information, you're like, okay, you got me all worked into a tizzy about the snow. What should I do with this information? We're still a few days out. So right now, all you really need to do is make sure you're staying updated. Like I said, this is still a changing situation. We won't have a really clear picture of exactly what time the snow will start and end, or exactly how much we're going to get in various locations until Thursday or Friday. So keep checking back over the next couple of days. Have emergency supplies ready. Go ahead and make sure that you've got what you need to have in your car and in your home in the event that we do get a major snow. A lot of these apply more to a situation where we are expecting power outages, but it's still good advice, especially with how cold it's going to be. Check the batteries in your smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. One thing that a lot of people don't think about is there's usually a spike in house fires when we have a snowstorm, because a lot of people are stuck at home, they're cold, it's going to be very cold, so some people's heaters may have trouble keeping up. People end up using space heaters, or they try and heat their home with their oven or their stove, which is very dangerous. If you do have power outages, people bring in generators and they don't use them properly and end up with carbon monoxide poisoning. So there's a lot of dangers in how you heat your home. So make sure that you have your batteries and your smoke and carbon monoxide detectors working correctly. Hopefully you won't need them, but we have them just in case, right? As we get closer to Thursday and Friday, that's when we'll really have those details you're looking for on the exact timing and totals and impacts. That's when we should have a clearer picture of this is exactly how much we're expecting and when. Those details are still a little fuzzy right now. At that point, you really need to be adjusting plans. If it's easy to move your plans, go ahead and move them now, because I'm confident it will snow this weekend. But as far as the exact timing and whatnot, that's where you really need to start making your plans to maybe leave early, or things like that, depending on what your plans were. Make sure you replenish fuel for your car and your heating sources. If you do have a generator that runs on gas, like I said, I'm not real worried about power outages, but it's always good when you know you're maybe going to be stuck in the house for a couple of days and there's some potentially hazardous weather going on. Make sure you've got an extra can of gas around for that generator just in case you need it. And make sure your car is full of gas when it's this cold, especially. The cars are going to struggle anyway. Make sure you've got plenty of gas in that car, and bring your pets inside on Friday because it is going to be brutally cold. It's going to snow. Bring them inside, make sure they've got fresh water that's not frozen over. Then once the storm actually hits, please check on your friends, your family, your neighbors, especially people who live by themselves or who are elderly. Just make sure that they're doing okay, that they have what they need, especially if they're snowed in. Make sure their heat is working correctly, things like that. Please do not be on the roads if you don't have to be this weekend. Just avoid travel if it's not necessary. Don't go anywhere you don't have to go this weekend. I know some of us are going to have to come to work and things like that. We're in that boat with you. But if you don't have to be out this weekend, please just stay home. If you do have to use an emergency heat source, please do so properly. If you have to use a generator, do so safely. If you have to use a space heater because those temperatures are going to be so cold, again, please do so safely. Make sure you know how to use those things correctly. And finally, one hazard that doesn't get talked about enough is how many people end up in medical emergencies when they're trying to clear snow. That actually happens a lot. The number of people that end up having a medical emergency, a heart attack or something like that when they're out shoveling is crazy high. So please, 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 as you're out there clearing the snow and trying to get your sidewalk, your driveway, whatever it is, cleared off, make sure that you're taking lots of breaks and listening to your body, and make sure somebody else knows you're out there and knows to check on you, please. All right. Let's check in, see some more of these comments. Donald asking if we're going to get a winter storm warning. I would say yes. For those of you who missed in the beginning here, we are under a winter storm watch along with much of the rest of the country. The entire tri-state is included in that winter storm watch. I would say when we're about a day out, probably sometime on Friday, we will get upgraded to a winter storm warning. They don't do that until you're like 12 to 24 hours away from the snow actually happening. So I think we'll be in a winter storm watch for the next 2 or 3 days, and then probably sometime on Friday, we will get upgraded to that winter storm warning. Paul is getting ready. Michael says his dog loves the snow. My dog hates the snow, so I'm glad that yours enjoys it. Mine hates it. Chad asking if the temperatures are going to go up. Yes, but maybe not as much as you would like for them to. If we pull up the temperatures here again, it's going to be really cold through the next few days, right? So tomorrow, not too bad. By Friday, though, very cold. And again, that is setting the stage. Whatever we get this weekend is definitely going to stick. Every bit of it. The question is just how much is going to fall, not whether or not it's going to stick. It's going to stick. It's going to be plenty cold. It's going to be cold on Friday, snow, 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 Saturday, Sunday. Then it's still cold. Monday, Tuesday, even into Wednesday, we probably won't make it above freezing. So it's very possible that whatever snow we get this weekend, it's still going to have impacts, probably travel issues, closures, and things like that lingering into Monday, maybe Tuesday and Wednesday as well. Looking at the extended outlook, I had it in here somewhere. Let me find that for you. When you look at the more extended outlook, here we go. The extended outlook, if it'll load for you here, that shows temperatures beyond that. And of course, now the map won't even load up. We'll give that a second. Sometimes the data just takes a minute. The extended outlook then, as we get toward the end of next week and into next weekend, so we're talking about something that's, 10 days out at this point, generally the extended outlook still shows that it's going to be pretty chilly out there. If this map will ever load, it was showing that, that kind of extreme cold, it had it kind of centered more over here so that the temperatures in the teens and whatnot, that shifts more to the east, but it still had us under below average temperatures even into next weekend. So we may struggle to see temperatures much above freezing for much of next week. So that is something to keep in mind. It's not going to be as cold, but it is still going to be pretty cold all the way through the end of next week, I would say. All right, let's check in on some more of the comments. Yes, stay warm and make sure your animals are warm. A lot of people concerned about losing power. Again, you always want to be prepared for the worst, but I would say we're not real concerned about ice. We're not real concerned about wind. And those are the two drivers of power outages. When you have ice and wind, that's when you see a bunch of people with their power knocked out. This is just going to be snow. We may get a glazing of ice in places like Hopkins, Muhlenberg, and Ohio counties, but even that is just a chance. For most of the tri-state, this looks like it's going to be all snow, no ice. It'll be a light, fluffy snow, and we're not expecting a lot of high winds either. So I don't think we'll have a lot of power outages, so that is good news. Derek asking if it's going to be like 2004. 2004 was the last time we got a foot of snow. I'm not convinced we're going to see a foot of snow, but 4 days out, I wouldn't completely bet that we wouldn't, if that makes sense. I think it's possible. I think it's more likely we get a little less than that, but we'll wait and see how it plays out. We should have a better idea tomorrow. I don't know that it's going to be like 2004, but that was a huge snow. 2004 doesn't come around very often. People asking, hope it misses us? Probably not. Yeah. Earlier in the week, it was still a little uncertain whether or not it would make it this far north. I guess this map is just not going to load. I'm just going to give up on that. Earlier this week, it was looking like maybe it wouldn't make it quite this far north. Confidence is increasing now that it will. This is the probability. Notice we're in that like 70 to 90% range of seeing at least 3 inches of snow across essentially the entire tri-state. So it is likely that this is going to be a major, significant, and impactful snowstorm this weekend. Some people asking about a state of emergency. That's not our call. The officials make that decision. I guess it just kind of depends on how we all deal with it. But since we're not expecting ice and we're not expecting a lot of power outages, it would really just be completely dependent on travel. If this is a situation where they're having trouble clearing the major roads, if this ends up being a situation where they're having trouble getting the interstates cleared, that's where you could maybe see a state of emergency. But, you know, the Department of Transportation knows this is coming too. They're going to have all hands on deck. So I'm sure those major roadways, they will be working round the clock to get those cleared. Some people saying they just want the 80s back. Yeah, remember when it was, 60 like a week ago? Yeah, no more of that. Not this week anyway. Again, some folks asking about specific totals for certain places. We won't really have a picture on that until at least tomorrow, maybe Friday, before we can say with any confidence what different spots in the tri-state might get. For everyone though, I would say 4 to 8 inches seems like a pretty good bet right now. That's what you need to be prepared for. Earlier in the week, we were talking about a lot of uncertainties. Could maybe be something, could maybe be nothing. Well, now it's looking like it's probably going to be something, right? There's a good chance that we see at least 4 to 8 inches of snow over the weekend. So everybody needs to be prepared to deal with that kind of snow. Make sure you run any errands you need to run tomorrow and Friday. Get your groceries, fill your car with gas, that kind of stuff, and just be prepared to not go anywhere this weekend if you don't have to, and know that those impacts will probably linger into Monday and maybe Tuesday as well. So just be prepared for that. And let's see, I'm just going to take 1 or 2 more questions here. Again, some people talking about specific locations, and there are some people asking if it's going to get as far north as Vincennes. You guys are kind of closer to the cutoff. I still think it'll probably bring a little something up that way. But again, once you get kind of north of the tri-state area, up more into Vincennes, you're kind of behind the banner here. You're more into that 30 to 50 to 70% chance range there. It really drops off closer to 30 to 50 as you get more to the northwest, but Vincennes is in that 50 to 70% chance range. So as you head north, those snow chances do drop off, but I do still think you'll probably get some snow in Vincennes. Probably not as much as they're going to get in western Kentucky, but you will probably get at least some snow in Vincennes. All right. Hopefully I answered everyone's questions. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Jeff will have an updated look at your forecast on 14 News tonight at 4, 5, and 6, and he'll have another streaming show for you tonight at 9, where if you have any additional questions, he can answer those then. Again, we've still got tomorrow and Friday, so there's no need to panic. You've got plenty of time to get all your ducks in a row and, fill your car with gas, get your groceries, figure out, rearrange your social calendar for this weekend so you don't have to go anywhere you don't have to. Like I said, I understand some of us we're going to have to work this weekend, and there's nothing we can do about that. So just if you do have to get out, drive slowly, drive carefully, clear all of the snow off your car. Don't be that person that just, gives yourself a little window in the front and then drives off with all the snow on your car. That's so dangerous. Please do not do that. Clear all the snow off your car, take things nice and slow, and just know travel is going to be really difficult, especially as we get into Saturday night and Sunday. I imagine we'll have a lot of church closures and things like that on Sunday morning, so check with your places of worship on how to get that information from them. And then it is going to also be very, very cold. So be prepared for that too. Make sure everybody's, nice and warm. Check on your neighbors, check on the elderly, check on people who live alone, make sure they're doing okay and that their heat is working all right, okay? And we'll all get through this just fine, right? And by the middle of next week, it'll finally start to warm up, at least a little bit. Maybe not above freezing, but 27 is better than 17, right? All right, everybody have a great rest of your day, and I hope you'll check back in with more updates for us later tonight.